and that I've chosen no form for the book of the mind because everything has no form. And when you finish reading this book, you will have a glimpse of everything, presented in the way that everything comes, in piecemeal bombardments, continuously, rat-tat-tatting the pure pictureless liquid of mind essence. Through this passage, one understands that Kerouac has a clearly Buddhist mindset in his conceptual structuring of his work. However, his Buddhist literary techniques had even more specific employment. Kerouac was known for his confessional prose style and creative use of punctuation to influence prose rhythm. In this passage from Some of the Dharma, Kerouac's use of dashes provides a kind of metronome to the reader. Today, July 27, 1954, I delivered a great sermon in my mind while meditating in the yard. But the body will go, the body will die, and there is no you, was the refrain. And how I long to be able to do something else with that rhythm of Buddha breathes in and Buddha breathes out, than merely breathe in and out. And how I long to be disembodied in rhythm, and then how I long to be disembodied finally in nothing. And I sensed vast halls of wind and emptiness echoing inside me. And I knew I was hero only because of an enormous self-belief, and belief in selfness, a sin begun by me selfishly, and now I pay in pain. I saw mind essence everywhere, had the eerie, snaky sensation of it manifesting and manifesting all this imaginary pain. I saw I can't write my visions of the Dharma except as I write my dreams, swiftly, surely, undiscriminated, purely from my mind. While not ostensibly Buddhist in execution, Kerouac's use of dashes was pointed towards meditative breathing practices. As he explained it, the reason for dashes is to give the reader advance visual warning of the impending end of a sentence, which after all is a rhetorical expostulation based on breathing and has to end, and I make it end with a vigorous release sign, i.e. the dash. With these stylistic developments and general Buddhist ruminations, the stage was set for Jack Kerouac's most exact Buddhist work, The Scripture of the Golden Eternity. The Scripture of Golden Eternity is Kerouac's sutra written at the suggestion of Gary Snyder. Here sutra is meant as the interstice between Buddha and his student where they meet. This particular work seems to have been written in Kerouac's Buddhist prime, full of bliss and confidence in Buddhist doctrine. For example, Kerouac writes, "Perfectly selfless, the beauty of it, the butterfly doesn't take it as a personal achievement. He just disappears through the trees. You too, kind and humble and not even here. It wasn't in a greedy mood that you saw the light that belongs to everybody." Kerouac is at his meditative best here, taking a stance of complete passive equanimity. This equanimity is further explored when he says, "There's the world in the daylight. If it was completely dark, you wouldn't see it, but it would still be there. If you could close your eyes, you really see what it's like. Mysterious particle-swimming emptiness. On the moon, big mosquitoes of straw know this in the kindness of their hearts. Truly speaking, unrecognizably sweet it all is. Don't worry about nothing." As is evidenced by the pure calm of these passages, Kerouac was at his Buddhist peak during the writing of the Scripture of the Golden Eternity. Sadly, from this point, Kerouac's Buddhism began to suffer as he spiraled further into alcoholism. Even his contemporaries could not have predicted that Kerouac would fall away from Buddhism as thoroughly as he did. Indeed, Allen Ginsberg called him the new Buddha of American prose, indicative of his stature as a Buddhist representative. Kerouac was like Buddha himself, in that he discovered Buddhist doctrine and endeavored to share it. Upon consideration, however, Kerouac becomes a sort of anti-Buddha, not in that his teachings were counter to Buddha's, but rather in that he was unable to enjoy the enlightenment he so fiercely sought and was so acutely aware of. Many blame the pressures of fame on this, and indeed Kerouac himself wrote in Mexico City Blues, "I'd rather die than be famous. I'd rather be in the desert sand, sitting legs crossed, at lizard high noon, rather go in the high lone land of plateau where you can hear, at night the zing of silence from the halls of assembled." The blame probably more nearly falls on Kerouac's problematic substance abuse and pursuit of sensual pleasures, which is intrinsically counter to Buddhist practice. Even as he became more popular and his books found an audience, Kerouac slipped away from Buddhism, as he details in a letter written on June 10, 1959. "Myself, the Dharma is slipping away from my consciousness, and I can't think of anything to say about it anymore. I still read the Diamond Sutra, but as in a dream now. Don't know what to do, can't see the purpose of human or terrestrial or any kind of life without heaven to reward the poor suffering fucks. The Buddhist notion that ignorance caused the world leaves me cold now, because I feel the presence of angels. Maybe rebirth is simply having kids. Additional proof for his disillusionment with Buddhism can be found in his remark later in life, "I'm not a beatnik, I'm a Catholic." Kerouac's life ended in 1969 with liver failure as a direct result of his drinking. His death was somewhat poetic in that the substance abuse which stifled his Buddhism ended his life, the life which was arguably most lustrous when focused on Buddhist doctrine. Despite this personal failure, there is no denying that Kerouac and the Beats heavily influenced American Buddhism by creating their own brand of Buddhist discipline. Granted, Kerouac's own methods ultimately failed him, but not before providing insight into the possibility and flexibility inherent in Buddhism, two concepts that have allowed Buddhism to westernize in a relevant way within America.